With so many podcasts out there, shows can get lost in the shuffle. That's why we implore you to check out Too Many Captains. You can find us at amoviepodcast.com.
5 unique takes on Hollywood movies and culture. Find us on Twitter at It's a Film Podcast.
Check our intellectual deep dives into theatrical films. Find us on Instagram at Too Many Captains Productions.
Unique takes on soundtracks. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Too Many Captains Productions.
Find us at amoviepodcast.com on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. And now, here comes a new episode of Collateral Cinema.
I'm Bo Maddox.
And I'm Ashley Chancellor.
This is Collateral Cinema.
Welcome to Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters, where we focus on good movies, bad movies, and everything else in between in the world of cinema. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420-friendly podcast. So whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it. And welcome to our season finale, ladies and gentlemen.
Hell yeah, season finale time once again. I am excited, actually. I mean, this season has been a little slow for us, admittedly. Yeah. I mean, I think that we just really need to kind of hit the social media promos hard this next coming month or so. But we appreciate each and every person who downloaded the podcast this season. You are all tremendous. We appreciate our guest hosts, Shocked and Applaud, Stu from Stu World Order, and of course, Victims and Villains.
You know what, Bo? I think they just hate us because they ain't us.
They hate us because they ain't us. Or anus.
Anus. They hate us because they ain't us.
They hate us because of the anus.
The hater's gonna hate and the ain'ter's gonna ain't.
Wow. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, we're doing The Interview, starring Seth Rogen, James Franco, Randall Park, and Diana Bang, and who else?
Lizzie Kaplan from Mean Girls.
Oh, yeah, Lizzie Kaplan from Mean Girls as well.
Yeah.
Now, you chose this movie, right?
I did. I mean, looking back, this, I think, was one of the first movies that I watched that had this kind of sense of controversial humor, that we see in especially a lot of Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's other films. I mean, we did do Pineapple Express last season. Or was that the season before last?
It was the season before last, and that was directed by David Gordon Green, who is doing the Halloween Kills movie, which we will be doing a Halloween episode this coming October. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen. And as going back to this season, I mean, I think that we chose some interesting movies. I mean, we had like Mulholland Drive and Drive. Those were like really art house type movies. Also Gozu. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we chose too many artsy fartsy movies this fucking season. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but we also did Hot Tub Time Machine, which is very much in the same style of humor as this movie.
Oh, definitely. I mean, probably a little less satirical.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I would probably say that Hot Tub Time Machine has a better ensemble cast, and it's probably maybe a little more on point with its humor.
Yeah.
But this movie right here, I mean, this has a very interesting background, and it's a background that is probably more infamous than the movie itself, right?
Yeah, I think the controversy surrounding this movie is more controversial than the actual humor, because obviously this movie went through quite a bit of difficulty in its road to getting released. I mean, it didn't see a wide theatrical release because of the Sony hackers that were going on, which North Korea denies involvement in, but they also threatened the United States if they release this movie. And I believe that this movie actually had to be edited, and things like Kim Jong-un's death in the movie had to be toned down a bit just to get it out.
And his death at the end, it's graphic in its own way, but I mean, I'm really trying to imagine what it would have been like had they removed most of the fire. And because it looks like they added a lot of fire effect in order to cover up the actual
The
effect.
head exploding, yeah.
I mean, they did cover it up well, but I would love to see the actual scenes that are, unedited and everything. So
I'm surprised this movie got greenlit at all. I mean, kind of the balls on them to release a movie featuring, as a prominent plot point, the assassination of Kim Jong-un, who, I mean, is still in power. This was maybe 2 years after he took over.
Well, I mean, let's not forget that in Hot Shots Part 2, you had... Or was it one of the Naked Gun movies? You had, I think it was Leslie Nielsen. It was one of the Naked Gun movies. Leslie Nielsen just goes in and just kicks the living shit out of all these old school dictators like Gaddafi and the Ayatollah Khamenei and I think Saddam Hussein as well. And those were all seated heads of state as well. They were still alive and contemporary at that time. So it's not unprecedented that a movie with this type of humor and this type of premise would actually be made. I mean, even going all the way back, like we saw this on the What the Flicks review for this movie, they brought up that, I mean, this kind of goes back to even Charlie Chaplin and his role in The Great Dictator, although that wasn't actually advocating for assassinating Hitler. It was just more like making a mockery of him.
And this movie does quite a bit of that as well. I mean, the plot point of Kim Jong, I mean, that's the premise, right? Is they're going to go assassinate him. And he does get killed in the movie. But what they're more going for, I think, for most of the plot is a mockery of his character and portraying him as this person who actually is seeking approval from his people and from his government because he has big shoes to fill. So it's kind of an interesting look at the character and maybe even a little bit true to life.
It could be true to life. I mean, there's so much that we don't know about the goings on in North Korea and also with Kim Jong-un himself.
Yeah.
I mean, not too long ago, he wasn't seen for a while. Like, he actually kind of just went dark for a little bit.
They thought COVID might have got him, I remember at one point.
Yeah, at one point they were like, did COVID get Kim Jong-un? And
I think he still denies that they had any COVID cases at all in North Korea.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, who knows, really, but, North Korea's government is weird. It's really technically a hereditary monarchy when you really think about it. It doesn't even go by the type of Marxist-Leninist ideology that you would have found in the Soviet Union or in Cuba or whatever, but it has its own ideology called Juche. And weirdly enough, there's actually a type of vaporwave called Juche wave, and it's all just, North Korea propaganda music and everything, just, vaporwaved and all that good noise. So it's really, really strange, but it's not a good place to live. Let's face it. I mean,
no, I think that very evident that there are people starving. And I mean, have you ever looked at North Korea on a satellite at night? Like, you look at South Korea, completely lit up, looks like anywhere else in the modern developed world. You look at North Korea, and besides the little dot of light for Pyongyang, I mean, it's just completely black.
That's amazing, right? It's like, what's actually going on in that country where they just don't have electricity for a majority of their people.
And meanwhile, Kim Jong-un lives in luxury, which they portray as well in this movie, and they even kind of almost paint him in a sympathetic light in the sense of like, okay, he was kind of thrown into this role. His people believe that he's a god. Like, how is he going to go out and do it? But I mean, he's still complicit, and he is obviously still batshit crazy and desperate to prove himself by any means necessary.
Well, the movie also brings up the fact that should something happen to Kim Jong-un, there are, other successors to particular role, to his actual position. I mean, he has a few other brothers. I think he killed one of his brothers, actually.
Yeah, he did, actually. I think he fed him to dogs or some shit.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
And he has a sister that became a meme for a little while. Because, weebs are going to fucking weeb.
Weebs are gonna weeb.
Oh my God. Yeah, there was a picture of her with toast in her mouth, and you know how that's a whole trope in anime, so all the weebs just went all batshit over that. So it's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
It's like, no, don't encourage these people.
This movie does lean into the politics a bit. It's not as smart as I think as it probably could have been. I really feel like the critique on American media is a little bit stronger.
Yeah, but
than the political humor, but
also, like I brought up before we started the podcast, there's other movies that have done that, in a better way. Like a good example is Natural Born Killers, actually. It's like that entire movie is pretty much just a takedown of the media culture of that particular zeitgeist of the 90s.
Right.
It was a particular flavor. You had Joey Buttafuoco, you had Lorena Bobbitt, you had the Menendez brothers, and then, of course, OJ. So, I mean, it was a particular brand of media that didn't really morph into good things later on down the line. It laid the groundwork for some bad shit recently.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is this movie opens up with Eminem actually cameoing and saying that he's gay. And that bit actually really cracks me up. Robert and I reference that all the time.
Yeah, you guys reference it all the fucking time. And honestly, it could actually stand as a short on its own. It's actually a good way to kind of introduce Skylark and Aaron as well.
It does. It sets up those characters really well. Within those first few scenes, actually, you kind of already are picking up the vibes and the chemistry between Seth Rogen and James Franco, which we'll talk about in a bit here. But I also wanted to mention, I mean, that's not even where the film opens. The way that the film opens is actually really fun.
Yeah, it opens up much like a propaganda video with a little North Korean girl singing a song about Dear Leader that gets very explicit in the anti-American.
Die, America, die. May your women all be raped by beasts of the jungle.
It's this little girl singing this in Korean, and it's just... It's kind of adorable, but so, oppressive and so...
Yeah, it would fill my little heart with joy if you all died or something.
But what was so perfect about that is just the way it was shot. I mean, it has the hallmarks of a propaganda flick. It actually captures it, not unlike how Starship Troopers captured, war propaganda from, the 1940s. This right here, it captured North Korean propaganda rather well. And, of course, the lyrics are just hilarious.
They are.
I mean, oh, my God.
The way that this movie is shot is not bad. I mean, you can actually see the talent in the cinematography.
Oh, definitely. Even during the action scenes, I mean, it's quite frenetic. It's kind of in line with a lot of modern action tropes, honestly. But it does those tropes well.
Yeah. And as far as the movie is written, it's definitely not off-brand for a Seth Rogen and James Franco flick. I think it's exactly what you would expect, and it is continuously funny throughout. I mean, we were laughing throughout the movie.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the dynamics between Rogen and Franco. I mean, it's undeniable that they have a chemistry to them that is, just all their own.
They really do, and I think this is kind of like the last project they did together, and I don't want to really get into it, but I do want to say we are going to say some positive things about James Franco as a performer, as an actor here, but in no way do we condone any of the behavior.
No.
I mean, I kind of want to take those allegations seriously since Seth Rogen has ended his partnership with him, and that's just sad because I know they were really good friends in real life, and at this point in the movie, in 2014, I think it's evident that they still are good friends, and they really do play off each other well. As usual, you've got Seth Rogen playing the straight man, and James Franco is just goofier than ever.
Oh, yeah, but he's goofy to a fault, I feel, In
some ways.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of real development done for his character early on. And
no.
I mean, he comes across as a little one-dimensional at first.
He's a very static character, but
yeah,
I think he plays that traditional James Franco character, and I think he even leans a little bit harder into the craziness of it all and goes a little bit more over the top in this movie, and it just comes across as more comedic in my opinion. I mean, it may not be for everyone. We watched two separate reviews where someone said that James Franco was one of the best performances, and we watched another one where someone thought that he was kind of weighing the movie down. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think he's funny throughout.
I will say that I feel that Seth Rogen's character is probably the most likable one out of the two.
Yeah.
Then again, you're probably not really meant to really like Skylark that much, but Skylark, I don't know, there's just something about him that just rings flat to me. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but
They do play off of each other really well. And then, like you said, I mean, the chemistry is undeniable. They obviously have their bromance moments, and one of my favorite lines in the film is when he was like, there's this running gag where he continues to make Lord of the Rings references, and he's like, you're the Samwise to my Frodo, and one of my favorite lines is midway through the film, when they're having their falling out, and he's like, I thought you were the Sam to my Frodo, but it turns out you're just Boromir.
Oh,
I don't know who that is. That's exactly what Boromir would say.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that's a pretty hardcore insult to Lord of the Rings nerds. I mean, I'm not that into Lord of the Rings. So I kind of sort of remember who Boromir was.
He's the one that tries to take the ring from Frodo at the end of Fellowship.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay.
Kind of one of the characters in the cast that was less likable, but I think, not like a bad person.
Yeah, he was still going on the quest for the ring and everything, but I mean,
Right.
Did he have like ulterior motives or whatever?
Well, he's a man that fell into temptation.
Yeah.
Because of the ring. But we'll get into that at some other point if we ever do. I mean, we are at some point. I want to do the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we will have to do those movies. At least do Fellowship of the Ring first,
I think we could do like what we're doing with the prequel trilogy next season and kind of talk about all three.
We could do that. Yeah, probably.
And a little bit of a spoiler there, but I think we already released what movies we're doing.
Yeah, we released a episode list. You can find it on our Twitter page. And yeah, we are going to do the prequels from Star Wars. So
yeah. But again, going back to the performances here, I mean, obviously Seth Rogen and James Franco are Seth Rogen and James Franco. I mean, if you've seen one of their movies, you've seen them all, really. But I actually really enjoyed the performance of Randall Park, who would go on to be in the MCU, and he was also in The Office, too.
Yeah, he kind of steals the show as Kim Jong-un himself because he plays it kind of matter-of-factly in a way. I mean, he's a character that is obviously manipulative, but also knows that he has a good life, knows that he's doing better than most of the people in North Korea.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and he's just completely flaunting it.
He has a tendency to kind of steal the screen, I think. I mean, his character, Jimmy Woo, in the MCU, and if you've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp or WandaVision, kind of has that same quality where it's like every time he's on screen, he is hilarious, and he's really taking the spotlight. And I think he really does a good job. He plays a convincing Kim Jong-un. I mean, this is what I want to believe Kim Jong-un is probably really like in his personal life.
Who knows? I mean, like we said earlier, there's so much that we don't know about North Korea and about Kim Jong-un that, I mean, any of this can be true and none of it could be true at all. I don't know. I mean, Dennis Rodman went and hung out with him, so maybe ask him.
Right?
Which I'm actually, like, really surprised that they didn't really bring up Dennis Rodman in this movie.
No, they didn't. But I think that this was kind of based off of a Vice interview or documentary or something that involved Rodman.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Dennis Rodman, he went to North Korea. He palled around with Kim Jong-un because, as many people may or may not know, Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il, they were all really, really huge fans of basketball.
Yeah, and you see that scene with him playing basketball with Dave Skylark.
Yeah, in a very, very nice NBA-style court and everything, and in like a little amphitheater.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, the whole dynamic between James Franco or Dave Skylark and Kim Jong-un is probably inspired by his relationship with Dennis Rodman, Like, was he honeydicking Dennis Rodman?
Probably. I would imagine so.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously a ploy to try to appeal to the West, you know, especially the people in the United States.
I read that evidently he does drink and party.
Oh, I'm sure he does, yeah.
He lives a life of luxury, so I guess, of course, he does. Meanwhile, his people are starving, so...
Yep. And
good job, bro.
Yeah. So, I mean, the political satire in this movie is something I wanted to kind of bring up. I mean, I kind of get it. I get the critique of the media, and I get how they're trying to, portray Kim Jong-un in a certain light,
Mm-hmm.
But I really feel like the actual satire, what the humor is trying to say in this movie is kind of muddled a little bit, even meandering. I mean, what is this movie really saying about North Korea? What is it really saying about the media other than, trashy fluff piece media is kind of, terrible?
Yeah, it's almost like there's a political message that they're trying to convey, but it kind of just doesn't come through. And so if you're approaching this movie looking for that little clever message, it's not in there. This is definitely 100%, a gag movie. It's just, here's another funny situation after another funny situation. And they are funny, but they're not like clever.
Yeah, they don't really play any service into the actual satire itself either.
No.
I mean, it serves the plot, but it doesn't really contribute to any type of message.
No, it doesn't. But, I mean, it's entertaining. I think we had a good time watching it and following the story. I was invested in the
certainly.
characters.
It's just that, I wasn't getting a real politically satirical message from this movie. And
No.
I know that it's trying to say something there. I mean...
But, what is it trying to say? Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of mystifies me a little bit, and it's kind of why I've initially resisted watching this movie at first. When it came out and the whole controversy happened, I did go on WikiLeaks and read some of the more infamous emails that were leaked and whatnot, especially when they were talking about Spider-Man and all of that and how much of a clusterfuck that was.
Oh, shit.
I think there was even stuff where they were talking about working with M. Night Shyamalan or something like that. But the interview itself, it just didn't really resonate with me in a way that I wanted to see it when it came out. And the controversy was just kind of more interesting than the movie to me. So,
yeah, maybe it didn't quite live up to the hype. But I mean, when I saw it in 2014, I think it made me laugh. I thought that, like I said, I hadn't really watched anything this controversial at that time. I hadn't really been introduced to that subgenre of comedy. And so, I hadn't really watched a stoner comedy before or anything else that Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg had done or anything Seth Rogen did with James Franco.
Yeah. But going back to the satire, just once again, it's another one of those things that falls flat to me. I mean, James Franco falls flat for me, and the satire falls flat for me. And that kind of hurts my view of the movie because it was entertaining. It was a lot of fun to sit through.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a lot of fun to drink beers to. It's a total beer drinking movie, honestly.
Totally.
Just totally throw it on while you're with your friends and just, knock back some beers and just have a laugh. And that's ultimately, once again, why I don't know why they were trying to inject any type of satire into this, because that's just ultimately what this movie is. It's a beer drinking gag movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
with
is.
With a political / espionage, flavor to it.
Right. And I think that the setup for that is at least pretty entertaining. I think like a lot of people have said, this movie is better in its first and third acts. Does sort of drag in the middle, but that's kind of the whole section where Kim Jong-un is honeydicking, as they put it in that running gag. He's honeydicking.
Which is crazy because that's where we're introduced to Kim Jong-un's, characterization by Randall Park and everything. And he does, like we said, he does a fine job as Kim Jong-un, but
it's the best part of that act.
It just grinds to a halt.
It does,
or
because
at least to a snail's pace.
Well, because, again, you've got James Franco by himself there. And maybe that's sort of why it falls flat, because he definitely does better when he's playing against Seth Rogen's straight.
Yeah, definitely. And, I don't really know what else to say about that, really. It's just, it just doesn't really hit.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was as funny. Now, but there are some pretty good jokes. Like I said, all the way throughout, it's definitely, the humor is there. Is it like knock you out of the park humor? Like, this is the funniest shit I've ever seen? No.
Yeah, is this like Freddy Got Fingered? No. Now that is a comedy. And we did that in our first season. Go check it out, everybody.
Right. I wonder if I know that a lot of like the political stuff had to get toned down, and the way that North Korea is portrayed and Kim Jong-un. Although, to be fair, I mean, what you do get is pretty harsh still. But I wonder if any of the comedy ended up getting toned down.
I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting to find the DVD and see if it has any deleted scenes, or maybe even look them up on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if there were certain things that were toned down politically, who knows? Maybe that's why the satire doesn't really hit. Like maybe they cut out some scenes that was like really, really integral to kind of building that message up.
Right. Like I said, that the political satire isn't strong. I think the more compelling parts of the movie are just kind of like the same running gags that are going throughout. You know, and when they continue calling back and making references to those jokes. And I maybe some people aren't a fan of the repeated jokes. I like it. I like the whole, like, we're going to come back and keep doing this thing. I don't think that any of the jokes really wear out their welcome. I think that they're actually, I think they're on point. I like the references they keep making.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's all kinds of hilarious banter in this movie. And also, you know, just the actual hijinks themselves. Like, for instance, the scene where he has to go get the other strip of ricin poison.
Yes.
He has to actually, like, Seth Rogen has to put on a bunch of dark clothes, like, crawl out the fucking window, crawl out to the fucking patch of grass, has to, like, stare down a tiger.
Yeah.
And then stick the motherfucking package up his ass.
Secure the package. You got to secure the package, bro.
And then he has to deal with the North Korean guards and everything.
Yeah.
Now, that is a great scene in and of itself, you know, but like I said, how does that, you know, pay any service to the message or to the plot?
It doesn't. It's just a gag, you know. It's just a Seth Rogen, James Franco thing with,
yeah, exactly,
you know, gay undertones and all.
Oh yeah, there's always that little bit of homoerotic undertone to
right.
all of this,
especially with James Franco. I mean, constantly. Look, we're watching the scene right now where he talks about the porno scene, and he's like, you don't cut out right before all the dudes come all over each other. That's the money shot. You get a close up, and he's like, what sort of porn do you watch?
Yeah, right. It's like, what the hell are you watching, dude? I mean,
look at
Jesus.
it. He's putting his all into this performance. I mean, he's just going balls to the wall with it.
He really is. And, you know, there's even some parts where he kind of chews scenery a little bit, you know, like especially in this scene right here. But like I said, I mean, it's just his characterization is just that and nothing else to me.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely like a one-note character. He is who he is. He doesn't even really go through any kind of development or any character arc, really, other than, you know, sort of, you know, redemption with his best friend. But even then, there's not really like there's no change in his behavior or really any recognition of that.
No, not really.
But they have the falling out, and then they make up and, you know, have that little moment where they whisper, "I love you." And you can kind of like look in the eyes of Seth Rogen and James Franco, and then that looks real. It feels genuine.
It definitely does. And I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say that Seth Rogen's character, I think that in many ways he's the best part of this movie. One of the best parts of this movie, other than Randall Park, because I mean, for one, I mean, Seth Rogen's main role in movies like this, he's meant to be the relatable one. You know, he's the
more
one,
sympathetic.
He's more sympathetic from towards the audience and everything. Yeah. And you know, the audience just kind of roots for him. I mean, Family Guy even made a joke not unlike that one time. But I feel like the scenes with him in it, and also his scenes with Sook, like those are actually some of my favorite scenes out of the entire movie because he's just endearing in that way.
Yeah. Also, Diana Bing is a badass, and I love that little that little kind of theme leitmotif that plays like every time she comes on screen. Like,
oh yeah, the little it almost sounds like a propaganda song.
Yeah. And then it's funny because the entire time I guess she was actually super attracted to Seth Rogen as much as he was to her.
Yeah, I know. And just the way that they meet is just like the best thing ever. Like just he comes to just this one point in China, you know, latitude and longitude and everything. And then this helicopter comes out of nowhere. He's just like these guards come out and shake him down. And then she just comes and extends the invitation for the interview. And she's just so imposing in that moment, right? I mean, for such a, you know, woman of small stature and everything, she's just like, she has this aura of just like, oh yeah, we're going to fuck you up.
Yeah, and she kind of has this characterization, you know, stoic. She's the propagandist, and then completely turns around, and we find out, you know, kind of her real personality. And I think that she's just a very interesting character.
She's a very humanized character in context of, the rest of North Korea that's portrayed in this movie. And it is, not entirely surprising that they would go that route with the script, having like a character, turn against Kim Jong-un. I mean, you kind of have to have that in order to make a story like this actually work.
You are entering into the most dangerous country on Earth. Kim Jong-un's people believe anything he tells them, including that he can speak to dolphins or he doesn't urinate and defecate.
Oh. You telling me my man doesn't pee or poo?
Everybody pees and poos. Where would he go otherwise? He'd explode.
But he does talk to dolphins. As the two best friends stared each other in the eyes, they knew that this might be the end of the long road. And even though neither one could say it out loud, they were both thinking, I love you. You want to go kill Kim Jong-un?
Totally. I'd love to assassinate Kim Jong-un. It's a date.
Right. And she's the one that comes up with the idea to, let's not assassinate him because he's just going to be replaced by someone else. Which they do mention, but they're going to do it anyway. But she's like, let's humanize him. Let's show him and reveal to the world that he does actually pee and poo, and he can be a bit of a crybaby, and he cries on national television.
Yeah. I mean, all of that leads to the titular interview, which is apparently actually a reference to a movie called Frost-Nixon, which was all about the Frost-Nixon interview.
They make a reference to that. There's a reference to that. They mentioned Frost-Nixon.
They call him Frosty Nixon. Frosty Nixon.
Because James Franco's just an idiot.
Yeah, he's such a buffoon. But I mean, I think the point is that to a degree, Kim Jong-un is, and that's why he's able to really manipulate him a little bit, because they're both kind of buffoonish.
They are. They have that quality about them. And you know that Kim Jong-un is manipulating him, but you also get, hints of, okay, he's kind of being genuine in this moment here and talking about how, he feels with his relationship with his father. And
yeah, that's where you actually kind of, dare I say, maybe even empathize with the character for a little bit.
A little bit. And then you find out that he's, just a chip off the old block and he's just as crazy as his dad is. But you kind of don't blame him, right? I mean,
yeah, I do like the scene where James Franco as Skylark actually comes to this realization about Kim Jong-un at the restaurant.
Right.
Yeah, and even one of his generals, Un's generals, has to remind him, is like, hey, the American is right next to you.
The American idiot is in our presence.
The American idiot is in our presence. He's right next to you. You're saying all this shit. And it's very awkward, and it's like very real in a way. It's almost like the reality actually hits the movie properly.
And then that's where James Franco goes through the closest thing that his character goes, Dave Skylark, to like a character arc, and which he realizes, okay, no, I've actually have been manipulated. He honey-dicked me, fake grocery store, fake fucking grapefruit, and that fat kid was fake too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the scene where he actually goes into the grocery store and he realizes that it's all just props and everything. I mean, that's actually very brilliantly acted and very well shot, honestly. I mean, and then that whole scene where he's like, liar, at Kim Jong-un's portrait.
Yeah.
It's like, that was really cool.
Yeah.
I like that scene a lot.
Liar. Something else that was interesting, kind of off point, but I love all the celebrity cameos. We already talked about Eminem, of course, but Rob Lowe shows up and apparently he's bald.
Oh, yeah. That's a weird scene, honestly. It's like, I mean, Rob Lowe, he's being a little self-deprecatory in that sense, but, it's such an odd little thing. And of course, the aforementioned Eminem cameo.
That is actually really funny. Like I said, we constantly reference that scene, and also Joseph Gordon-Levitt with the puppies.
With the puppies, yeah.
And Bill Maher shows up a couple times throughout the film.
Yeah, he does. And a lot of the cameos were kind of, within context of the shows that they were from. Like, Bill Maher, he was on his late night set, his real-time set, Also, I think that you had at the beginning some clips from like NBC or something like that.
Yeah, Emma Stone shows up for like 2 seconds as well. I saw her face
very briefly.
Yeah.
Who else was in those little swipes and everything? I mean, there was quite a few cameos here that were literally just like seconds.
Zac Efron, Nicki Minaj, Iggy Azalea, Guy Fieri.
Yeah, that's right. Guy Fieri is there randomly.
Was it Seth Meyers has a cameo appearance?
Yeah, and that's on his late night show as well.
And Brian Williams and Scott Pelley.
Wow.
So we've got all these like late night show characters, and that's the point at which they're actually questioning the competence of
Skylark
and him doing this interview, which is just completely crazy. I mean, but the setup for this movie is actually I thought it was done pretty well. I mean, within the first act of the movie, they throw us into the premise pretty quickly. And it's like, okay, here's these characters. Here's how they act with each other. Here's their relationship. Here's what they're doing. Okay, Seth Rogen wants to do something a little bit more serious. James Franco finds out that Kim Jong-un is a huge fan of the show. And so they reach out to him and they're going to do an interview.
Yeah. I mean, the pacing in that first act is just spot on, just keeps going and going and going. And I think that really is what makes that second act so stark, because it just kind of stops there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not having all of these, gags after gags after gags. It's this whole, moment where Kim Jong-un and Skylark are just kind of, relating to each other. And of course, he's getting honey-dicked and everything, but...
And Katy Perry.
And Katy Perry, of course. You got to have Katy Perry in there.
It's like they despise us because they are not us.
Oh, definitely. Oh, my Lord. But, I mean, as far as the controversy itself, it's always going to be interesting. I mean, I actually really recommend going on WikiLeaks and checking out the emails. I mean, fuck it, right?
The emails.
The emails. Yeah, no, not those emails. Those emails are on there. They're kind of interesting to watch, to read, I should say, watch. But, yeah, this movie is more or less a footnote to that.
It is. I really feel that way. I mean, it definitely doesn't, I don't think it completely lives up to the controversy that surrounds it. I was surprised by how graphic the movie is.
It's very graphic. Like, there's that scene where Sook just takes that 50 caliber machine gun and just waylays that whole hallway of North Korean guards, just waylays them and pretty much butchers them. It's almost close to what you saw in the fourth Rambo movie.
And then you see a guy get shot on the head and blood splatter everywhere. And you see the blood splatter up whenever they run over people with the tank and shit.
Oh, yeah, that was fucking crazy. Yeah, it's like there is a lot of gore in these types of movies with James Franco and Seth Rogen.
And then the aforementioned Supreme Leader head explosion.
Yeah, which, as we said, was edited out.
It was toned down with the
fire
covering his face. But you do still see... the head explode and stuff. And actually that moment of the movie is really funny because they're launching a missile out of the nuke and it's going in slow motion and they're playing like an acoustic version of Katy Perry's Firework.
Yeah, a very kind of somber version of Firework.
Yeah. And then the fucking missile just kind of like flies past Kim Jong-un's head, and you see the realization, and then it hits the helicopter, and it explodes. And
yeah, it's all in slow motion, and it's all in fine detail.
Yeah.
It's actually a really well-done sequence.
It is. And the interview beforehand was a really well-done sequence, because, again, bringing it back to Firework, and I like where, you just hear James Franco singing Firework, but he's like, Kimmy, you're a firework. But there's, it's just sort of awkward and there's no instruments in the background or anything. You're just, I actually thought that was kind of where the movie sort of regained its footing.
Yeah, a little bit, especially that moment in the interview where Franco as Skylark, he finally pulls that whole like just switches the interview around 180 and just fucking goes at Kim Jong-un. And for a little while there, Kim Jong-un starts bringing up, well, you know, what about your incarceration rate in America? It's like, what about this? What about that? And, you know, Franco, he acts befuddled. He acts like he's getting his ass kicked, but then he brings it back around.
Yeah.
You know?
And they allow you for a moment to think that his character kind of gave up right before that, you know, and is actually going along with the scripted interview that he was supposed to do. But then, you know, like you said, in just a split moment, he turns around and he's like, well, why don't you feed them? And then, yeah, he allows himself to kind of get taken down. So it's interesting how they even put a sort of intelligence to his character, despite him being an idiot. You know, within a night, he memorizes all these little facts, and he has kind of this clever strategy. So I thought that was kind of a little weird how you know, is James Franco's character actually kind of smart in a way?
I think that he is. I mean, he is a journalist in the end, you know, so he had to go to journalism school and he had to have some experience doing that sort of thing. Yeah, I think that we let's go ahead and get to our final thoughts.
Okay.
So, I mean, you go ahead.
Final thoughts. I definitely remember this movie being a lot better than on a rewatch, and I think that's because I've seen some more funny movies and better directed and written movies in this caliber. I still think it holds up. Like I said, it is enjoyable throughout. I was laughing the whole time. They really do throw gag after gag at you, and it's entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. Very entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, I laughed a lot in this movie. I'm not going to lie.
And for what it's worth, I mean, I do think that the cinematography is on point.
Yeah, the cinematography is kind of muted, but also the camera tricks that it uses is actually really, like, it really pops for some reason, you know? Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of good movement, lots of good camera movement throughout.
Right.
I mean, especially like we said at the beginning with the in Pyongyang, you know, panning out and showing the crowd and then showing the huge oppressive building and then just, you know, just having those vibes of just straight oppression, you know? And,
right.
And it's a great way of actually just introducing both the humor of this movie and also North Korea within the context of the movie.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
But those are mostly my final thoughts right there. I mean, like I said, I feel like the satire is a little meandering and maybe even downright meaningless at times.
Right.
I feel like Seth Rogen is a much stronger character than Skylark, James Franco's character.
Right.
And honestly, Randall Park is great as Kim Jong-un, but oof, that second act, I mean, it just loses steam.
Yeah.
It loses steam so quickly. And that's unfortunate because Randall Park is giving his best performance as Kim Jong-un there. And he is the better part of that entire act, but I mean, compared to that first act, it's
not enough.
It's not enough. It's not enough, you know? It might even be too little too late when it comes to the character arc itself.
Right.
So, but other than that, I like a lot of the actual gags in this movie. I like a lot of the action sequences, especially near the end. The interview sequence itself was a brilliant send-up of Frost Nixon. And yeah, I mean, it's a movie that I don't think I would probably rewatch anytime soon. I mean, it's just kind of eh. But the controversy surrounding it, I mean, that's interesting to get into every now and again. I'm sure that there's plenty of YouTube videos online that talk about that. So
yeah, it's a good like kind of throw in the background movie while you're drinking beer. And
yeah, it's a beer movie. That's the thing is it's a beer drinking movie that tries to be smarter than it actually is.
Yeah,
that's really what it is, and that's why the satire, or you know, I might even put it in quotation marks, satire. It just kind of, you know, doesn't hit for me at all. So
yeah, and maybe that's why movies like Superbad kind of shine a little bit more, because Superbad, you know, or Pineapple Express don't try to be anything that they're not.
Exactly. I mean, and Superbad is such a great story, like character-wise, that, I mean, any other shortcomings, it just kind of, you know, makes up for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the interview, it's like, it's worth maybe a rental, I would say. Like, maybe rent it or just stream it.
It's on HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max. I mean, it's good. It's funny. But I mean, I kind of feel like if I gave it a second watch, it would probably be less so.
Okay, yeah.
Honestly. So, yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Yeah. But we are coming to a close with Collateral Cinema Season 4. I mean, it's been a great season. We talked about some of the movies that we did. We did, for the first time, get into Neil Breen, and that's going to be kind of a tradition because we ran out of Tommy Wiseau movies. So onwards to from our patron saint of the podcast to our god, Neil Breen.
The god that is Neil Breen, the Brainius.
The Brainius.
Yeah, that's going to be Double Down, which is more laptops, more fake guns, more Neil Breen walking through a desert. It's just kind of quintessential Neil Breen. So
yeah, that's the Neil Breen movie that we're going to be doing next season.
Yeah, but also we're going to be starting the season off with Necromantic.
Finally,
we're finally getting to Necromantic, and I am looking forward to that so much.
I think we've planned to have that movie every season, and we just kept replacing it with something else.
Well, this time we are starting the season off with that movie. And yeah, it's gushy. It's kind of amazing in its own right, but it's going to be awesome getting into that. And we are going to have quite a few guest hosts on this podcast, actually. We're going to have, of course, many of the guests that we had from the previous season, from this season, Shocked and Applaud, Stu from SWO Productions, and also Victims and Villains.
And we're going to get Cornwell back on, right?
We got to get Cornwell back on. I almost want to get him on the Necromantic episode, actually, because it'd be funny to see what he says about that. But,
and I mean, there's going to be some more collaborations between Collateral Cinema and Collateral Gaming. Not unlike the Mortal Kombat episode we did earlier this season. We are going to be talking about Uncharted.
Yeah, and we're also going to have the Retro Anime podcast on the Cowboy Bebop episode. We're going to do 2 anime movies again this season, Princess Mononoke and Cowboy Bebop the movie. And Cowboy Bebop is a perennial favorite of mine. That's the best fucking anime ever made, honestly. Hands down. I can't believe you haven't seen it yet.
I've seen a couple episodes of Cowboy Bebop.
Well, a couple of episodes is not enough. I mean, there are some good standalone episodes there, and it kind of depends on what you saw. But honestly, you got to check out the overarching story.
I started from the beginning.
Yeah, that first episode is fire. Yeah. It's such fire. I love that episode so much. And we're going to get into a lot of good memories about that particular series. And also, we're going to do Halloween Kills. It's going to be...
Finally, it was something we planned last season as well.
Yeah, but coronavirus and all that.
Coronavirus.
Yeah, fuck that up. And what else? We're also going to have a couple of 90s movies. We're going to have So I Married an Axe Murderer and Sidekicks. We're getting into that Aaron Norris, Chuck Norris shit.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to talk about Walker, Texas Ranger on that episode. 100%. It's what else are we doing? We mentioned the prequels. We're doing Last Action Hero. We're going to have hindsight movie reviews on that one. That's going to be interesting. And we're doing Bolero.
Hell yeah.
We're doing Bolero. And yeah, we're going to try to get this out before Brad Jones decides to do it for the Cinema Stop now that he's back. Which, by the way, welcome back, Brad. Welcome back. He went to the hospital for a little bit.
Glad he's doing all right.
Yeah, glad he's doing all right. And glad it wasn't like COVID or anything.
We're huge fans of the Cinema Snob.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of our go-tos along with Nostalgia Critic.
I would say that he's probably close to another patron saint of this podcast, at least of the director's cut. But yeah, Bolero is going to be interesting. That's going to be part of our bad movie month in December, in which our Christmas episode is going to be Last Ounce of Courage, which is a terrible war on Christmas movie. And we're going to have Victims and Villains on that one.
We're actually doing a few bad movies this time. I'm kind of cool with it.
Yeah, we're doing at least 3 of them. It's going to be really fun. Actually, and not so many art house movies this time. Which I think that there was a lot of artsy fartsy movies we did this season that didn't hit that much.
Yeah, yeah. Like the interview says, people want their crap.
Yeah,
they don't want their vegetables. They want to eat all the junk and
bleh. Yeah. But I think that this season is going to be quite exciting. We're going to have at least 9 podcasts coming on to guest host this season. So,
fuck yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned for all of that. And also, if you want to check our movie list, I'm probably going to go ahead and, after a while, I'm probably going to pin it on the Twitter page for a little while, maybe on the Facebook page. So you can check it out there, and you can check out who's going to be on what. Oh, yeah, our 420 episode is going to be Evil Bong.
Fuck yeah.
Evil fucking Bong. And we're going to get into some more Charles Band and some more Full Moon features. which is like another perennial favorite of ours on the podcast. If you know anything about, Robert and I, we love our full moon features. So
yeah, and speaking of which, we are going to be doing some more director's cut style episodes during our break. We want to continue to release those.
Yeah, I think that we need to do a free commentary for the Buttercream Gang 2.
Hell yeah.
We got to do it, man. We got to. I mean, they got Eldon back, man. It's like, oh my God, I'm a Buttercreamer now.
Yeah, and if you enjoy Collateral Cinema and you love video games too, check out Collateral Gaming. We just released our At the Movies episode, not At the Movies, the game equivalent of that, game launch episode on Skyward Sword HD. Go check that out. We're also going to be talking about our first bad game review of the season. And that is going to be Sonic 06.
Oh, shit.
Sonic 06.
We're gonna have to watch the AVGN episodes on that. And also maybe, I think GameSack may have done some episodes.
I've seen the AVGN episodes.
Yeah, those are fun.
And then we're going to be doing our season finale on Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain, kind of pairing those Quantic Dream games together.
I've actually seen Heavy Rain in action. That's a very interesting story and a very interesting way to approach gaming.
And with Beyond Two Souls, of course, we've got the talents of Daddy Defoe and the actor formerly known as Elliot Page.
Elliot Page.
Elliot Page.
Elliot Page is like, kudos to Elliot, coming out and owning his shit, It's like,
seriously,
damn right.
Props to you, man.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, you can find Collateral Cinema on Podbean, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. Pretty much everywhere. I actually went and Googled us. It's like we're on quite a few different platforms. I think we're even on like Audible and Mixer and Amazon Music. We're on that as well.
Couple months ago or so, I actually went back and I went through our Podbean page and I made sure to put us on all of the recommended apps on there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Websites.
Excellent.
So yeah, same thing with Collateral Gaming. You can find us anywhere you listen to Collateral Cinema. We both have Patreons. Go check those out if you want to listen to exclusive commentaries.
Yeah, and commentaries like The Room. And also we did Freddy Got Fingered. And I'm going to have the Poultrygeist commentary up very soon. And also, check us out on Podchaser and give us a 5-star review there. And also, go and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and whatever podcast app you use. Like, it will help us go up in the rankings. I mean, every now and again, we get on Chartable. We get on a foreign chart every now and again. So, if you can give us 5-star reviews, you would really help us out, really help us kind of rise up the ranks a little bit. So, I mean, yeah, check us out, everybody.
And let us know what you want to see on Collateral Cinema. We're open to feedback.
Definitely, or Collateral Cinema Director's Cut. So, yeah, let us know. Leave us comments on Twitter. Like, it's at C Cinema Podcast. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. And also on Podchaser, like I said. So, yeah, check us out, everybody. But anyways, thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for listening to Season 4. It was a slow season, but I think next season is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about a lot of the movies we're talking about.
Yeah. So we're going to be back in October. First episode will be Necromantic, followed by Scream, and also Halloween Kills. So with all that said, I'm Bo Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And this was Collateral Cinema Season 4. Thank you, everybody. And thanks to everybody who retweeted and followed us this season as well. Thank you to all. And with that, we are out.
Collateral Cinema out.
Collateral Cinema out.